Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one rated sportsbook app out there. I'm your host, Rudo, joined as always by AJ Hafley. And there's been some news over the weekend. We'll probably get into some of that. Training camps have technically kind of started, even though they weren't supposed to start until tomorrow, really. But doesn't even matter because we can't even really be there. So who knows? Top to bottom, it's a bit of an interesting week coming up ahead of us. We'll see how things go. First of all, AJ, how are you doing?
It's a weird feeling, man. All around the league, you get to see all the writers who are like, "Oh my God, it's amazing being back at the rink. It's just so wonderful." We don't really get to do that. I mean, obviously, I'm in Canada still, so it's like
wouldn't have
a little bit
mattered
different
for this first couple days anyway, but
yeah, exactly. But when I get back, it'll be like, well, nothing's changed. No media. It's not even like one person and these 5 outlets can come. It's like nobody is allowed to be there. Total blackout, man. No practices, no camps, no nothing. I think the first time we're allowed to be there will be the last practice before the season opener.
That one's at Ball Arena, right? So
yeah.
And look, from a safety standpoint, I totally get it. Like, you don't want to be taking any of those risks, but from a hockey standpoint, it sucks.
Yeah, I'm just sort of complaining in general, like this sucks.
Yep, for sure. It's a shame that we can't be in there watching hockey, talking about hockey, talking to hockey players, but
yeah, absolutely, man. It sucks, dude. Like it's definitely a bummer.
Either way, that's kind of the way things are, which leads us to today's show of what we do and don't know about Avs training camp. And the answer is we don't know very much. We have a roster. We have a couple of player sightings here and there through Twitter feeds and the like, but it's not a ton.
It's not much at all. We talked to Jared Bednar yesterday.
Yep.
That was nice. Talked to a couple of players already today. We talked to McKinnon, Devon Taves, and Pavel Francouz.
Yep.
Guess what? They're all excited.
Yeah, it's the general feel I think we've gotten from everyone is obviously excitement for hockey to be back, but this is a team that last year it was more of a feeling of they needed to prove they're for real. Now it's a feeling of they know they're for real and they want to take it as far as they can.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about how their progression into cup contenders has gone from unexpectedly making the postseason to getting really lucky and making it that second year that the league around them totally fell apart the same time they did.
Yeah.
And then the transition began into, okay, these expectations have to go up. We've made the postseason 2 years. We've been aggressive in the offseason. Going into, look, you remember last offseason, they were busy.
Yep.
Not the one that just finished with the, Nazem Kadri, Andre Burakovsky. Just very, like, Val Nichushkin was added, like, Jonas Donskoy was added. Oh, that's like half their forwards.
Yep.
Like,
they built a second line.
They were busy, man. There was a lot of work to be done. And they didn't have to go do that because they still had all those guys.
Yeah.
And then, so when you go out there and you finish second in the Western Conference in the regular season, you kind of just set yourself up.
Yep.
Okay, now they're a favorite, and then they were going to be they were going to be a favorite no matter what division they were in. But the fact that they got put into a division with the other big favorite out west in Vegas, That's a tough break, but the rest of their division is
fairly weak.
A cakewalk.
With the last minute changes of not ending up with teams like Dallas.
The moving forward, do people still do cakewalks?
Man, the last time I did a cakewalk, I was like 7 years old.
Yeah.
On like Halloween, I think. Yeah.
It was like a carnival that my elementary school did every year.
It is very much an elementary school thing. I did it in elementary school every year and have not even thought about one since.
All right. Kale coming in with the info there because, yeah, actually doing a cakewalk has been a long time for me. So, I mean, you know what? If the Avs want to cakewalk their way through this season, I'm for it, though. I could use a good cakewalk, AJ.
I mean, it's kind of so far. Really, this offseason's kind of felt cakewalky, right? Everything got done.
Was it a cakewalk, or was there just like it felt like the Avs just didn't have any moves to make? Like,
well, there were a couple moves that they didn't make that certainly are going to be a talking point moving forward.
Sure.
You know, not getting Landeskog on an extension is a big deal. Makar is fine.
He's an RFA. It's not like he can go anywhere.
Exactly. Like there's very that guy was not going to sign. We've talked about that situation and how there are 4 guys that are all in the same boat where it's like, look, this is a market that's going to have to work itself out. That guy will not be in training camp next year. Like, just
deal with it.
Let's prepare everybody right now for Cale Makar not being in training camp next year, just because the business side of things will be what they're going to be.
Yep, I wouldn't even be something I'm worried about. So.
Yeah, well, and last year it was the Rantanen thing, which we were just like, this is fine. It'll get, until you start missing actual games, it's whatever.
Took a little longer than people would have liked, but he got it done in time.
Yeah, missing the entire preseason was probably a little bit much, but it didn't seem to bother him at all.
Yeah, came in opening night and scored 2 or 3 points, I think. So
yeah, I think he got a point like 8 minutes in, and it was like, he's fine.
Yep. Certainly. It was a bit of a weird offseason for the Avs. They did a couple of things very, very early, not immediately because no one did anything on the first day of free agency, but the next couple of days they got their business done, and then they kind of sat on the sidelines for the rest of the offseason.
Yeah, they spent their money. They had like 20 some odd million in cap space going into it, and they spent it, man. They spent it on all their own guys. They had a bunch of guys that needed raises, and that's how it works.
Yeah,
that's
I think pretty true.
Maybe the one thing is that they got very few of those guys on longer contracts.
Yeah.
Even if you go back to Francouz, who that's kind of cheating a little bit, but Francouz, a 2-year deal. Graves, a 3-year deal. Taves is their longest at with the 4-year deal.
Yeah.
Joe signed his qualifying offer. Nichushkin just the 2-year deal. Burakovsky just a 2-year deal. It's all very much setting up for them to
have more work to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's both flexibility and taking a chance.
It's the opposite of what the Pittsburgh Penguins are doing, essentially.
It's the opposite of what a lot of teams have done, actually. If you look at how many of these teams lock themselves into, okay, this is our group for the next 5 years.
Yeah, I suppose. I was just looking at Pittsburgh the other night because they just signed Marino to another defenseman to a 6-year deal for them, and their defense is locked in.
After the trade for Matheson, too?
Yeah. They're stuck with Matheson for the next 6 years. They have Marcus Pettersson for the next 5 years. They now have Marino through 2027. They even have a couple of other guys for the next handful of years. Dumoulin for the next 3 years. There's just so little flexibility there. And in a world where the cap goes up every year and you can dump players, it seems more reasonable. But after what we saw this offseason, where you have to basically beg teams and give away guys if you're trying to get rid of cap, I actually quite like the Avs' more short-term position.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's a team that they're going to have their expansion draft is going to be weird too.
Yep.
Because, I mean, Letang, Matheson, Dumoulin, Pettersson, those guys are all going to be eligible. What you going to do with that?
I mean, all those guys are weird as well, because, like, is Seattle really interested in any of those guys that much?
I mean, I would say Letang probably no, Matheson probably no, but Pettersson and Dumoulin potentially.
Yeah, I suppose Pettersson's only 24.
Yeah, Dumoulin is really solid. I think he's a really good player, but at 29, 3 years left, 4.1 mil, maybe. I don't know.
A topic for another day. I don't know if I keep it real. I try, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess whatever you think real is, right?
Yeah, maybe this podcast is more when keeping it real goes wrong. I don't know. Anyway, circling back around to Avs training camp, it seems pretty straightforward. For the most part, everyone's there. It appears that everyone's healthy, or certainly they haven't provided any updates on anyone that might not be healthy. So, neat, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we had questions. We weren't sure what the status of EJ was going to be. We weren't sure if there were any major surgeries or not coming into this. So, finding out that there was just one minor surgery for Francouz, great.
Yep, nothing too crazy over the offseason. Yeah, that's fair, Brooks. Definitely. Makar just signed him until the end of time.
Yeah, I mean, Gerard's on a 7-year deal, right? He's just starting a 7-year deal. Let's get if Kale can get on a long-term deal as well, and then they can lock down Byram long-term. You really don't worry too much about the rest.
So maybe the Avs contract situation will look like the Penguins in like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Hopefully they've won a couple.
Except all those guys will still be in their 20s, and Pittsburgh will be in the bottom 5 again.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Contracts don't matter after you win a cup, right?
This era of them winning 3 cups in the Crosby-Malkin era, I think they're happy.
Yeah, for sure. We can take our first period break on that note. Let you guys know about StravaCraft coffee, the CBD-infused coffee that has really changed lives. You can order over at StravaCraftCoffee.com and get 20% off your first purchase when you use code DNVR20. When you love the product, you can also sign up for their subscription service for 2, 3, 4, 6, or 8 weeks and get 20% off every single time you buy. The CBD is non-psychoactive, and it's been known to help with many different aches and pains, including migraines, IBS, joint pain, and many other things as well. So give it a try today. And of course, we have our favorite DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 rated sportsbook app out there on the market. With odds boosts every single day, you can get a bunch of amazing deals and make yourself a ton of money out there, whether it be betting on pretty much anything you want, or betting on simple things like the NFL playoffs coming up or every Nuggets game, because apparently all you have to do is bet on Nikola Jokic to get rebounds and you'll just make infinite dollars. Either way, you can do both at DraftKings Sportsbook. So all new players, when you sign up for a new account with code DNVR, will receive a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. So be sure to jump on that while that promotion is still going, because that can be up to a free $1,000 just to gamble however you prefer. So check it out this week. Every day this week, they'll have different odds boosts ranging across the board. If you want to bet on ping pong, they might even have odds boosts on that. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use that DNVR code to get up to a $1,000 sign-up bonus. Again, code DNVR for that for limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and first bet match. Requires 25x playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. All right, second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Talking a little bit of Avs, talking a little bit of training camp, talking a little bit around the league. It's the Monday news wrap-up show here. One interesting thing about the Avs training camp roster, they did put Bowen Byram on it. Now, he's at the WJCs right now. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We do know he has to go through a 7-day quarantine when he does leave and get back to Colorado. So even though he's on the roster, he's essentially going to miss the entire thing. Is the expectation they still drop him in for maybe that last practice on the 12th or morning skate on the 13th and he makes opening night? Or do you think it's going to be more of a workup process towards getting him in the lineup?
I think he doesn't really, because he's going to be coming off of the WJCs.
He's warmed up, sure.
Yeah, but then you're sitting around for a week.
Yeah.
I think he's going to need a practice or two. I wouldn't play him opening night. I would probably play him in game 2.
So a practice or two, literally.
Yeah, yeah. Let him morning skate on opening night. Let him practice the next day, and then that second game, what is it? The 15th at home against St. Louis still?
Yep.
Because they open with St. Louis, I believe.
Yep.
Get him into that game.
Let her rip.
Yeah, and if they don't, they have 3 days off for some inexplicable reason. One of their 3-day breaks comes immediately.
Right at the start, yep.
They have that weekend off, and then they play 3 and 4 games in Southern California. Bowen Byram should make his debut.
At very least rotate again, yeah.
At the latest, in my opinion, Byram's first game should be the first game on that road trip in Los Angeles in the second week of the season.
And look, you and I were pretty confident that Bowen Byram was going to get games this year, but at this point, after speaking to Jared Bednar, it seems a certainty.
Yeah, there wasn't anything coy about it. Like, it was, we just have to play it and see how it goes.
Yep. So
that was it. Like, that was it, man. Like, there was no well, we'll see how it goes. We aren't sure if we want to do this, or we have a really good defense. We like a lot of our guys. It was like, we have to get them into games.
Yep. Pretty blunt. So expect to see Bowen Byram sometime near the start of the season. Of course, they'll have decisions to make with the 6-game limit and everything like that. But
yeah, and that's one thing, where they will go from that I don't think is a big deal. They'll know within a couple of games whether or not they want to keep him.
For sure.
Right now, the AHL is a realistic possibility. I still don't know that I would mess with it. I think probably just keeping him on the taxi squad would probably be just the best thing for him. Honestly, I just don't know what he's going to get out of playing anywhere except in the NHL.
Yeah.
He's ready to rock, man.
Maybe there's a world where a handful of AHL games help him, but I definitely don't think he should be down there long term. And that's just a dude that if you have him on taxi squad feels a bit gross, right? Like, he should be playing games in the NHL if he's ready.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of it, man. Like, if you think he's good enough to be on the taxi squad, then he needs to be a realistic possibility to get in the lineup.
Yep.
And the AHL is going to be so inconsistent this year. We don't know what that's going to look like. Even if he goes down there and tears it up, he can't go from the AHL to the NHL. He has to go from the AHL to the taxi squad to the NHL. So even if he goes down and plays well, he comes back up, he ends up sitting for a week.
Yeah.
This AHL season is not going to be particularly useful in terms of development. The taxi squad is the perfect middle of the road option.
Unless he shows up and in his NHL stint just looks completely unprepared. There's no reason not to keep him on the taxi squad and rotate him in when you can.
Yeah.
You already mentioned the 3 games in 4 days. The schedule is going to be ridiculously grueling. People are going to get hurt this year. It's just inevitable. So
yeah, and with a guy like Ian Cole, Eric Johnson, when they have those stretches, because they are going to, starting with that LA game, they play 2 back-to-backs. Between the 19th and the 31st, they play 2 back-to-backs, and they only have 1 day off maximum in between games.
Yep.
So,
it's a bit hectic, to say the least.
That with Eric Johnson and Ian Cole, you can easily just be like, you know what? Let's rest them for one of these games.
Yeah.
We don't need to throw all this wear and tear on these guys immediately.
Especially,
got a deeper defense. We can afford.
Yeah. If the Avs get themselves in penalty trouble on a couple of those nights, especially, and EJ ends up playing 22, 23 minutes or something, and all of a sudden, you just need legs.
Yeah.
So the flexibility of the taxi squad, I think a lot of people are undervaluing right now.
Yeah.
Teams are gonna take advantage of it when they are in these long stretches of games across the course of the season.
And when you're talking about guys like Byram and Timmins and I believe Gilbert as well, even, you're talking about guys that don't need to pass through waivers.
Yep.
And so it's just like, okay, well, you can freely move them back and forth without ever thinking about it.
Yep. That's on the defensive side. On the offensive side, you're probably looking at Kaut and O'Connor. Maybe one of them's on the roster, but whatever.
Yeah. With where they are at the cap, which isn't like right up against it, but close enough to keep an eye on it.
Yep.
Maybe you put a guy on the roster and then you have the rest of these guys on the taxi squad and then you just kind of move them around depending on what you need. Because you can promote from the taxi squad day of the game. As long as you do it before 5 p.m., you're good. 5 p.m. Eastern, so 3 p.m. for the Avs.
It's a question from Zach O'Donnell in the chat. It appears to be Mike Hedden's birthday, but I don't think there's any chance the Avs trade for a career AHL guy to be on the taxi squad.
Yeah, why would they do that?
There's just the one side of it is, yes, the Avs absolutely want to use their taxi squad heavily. The other side of it is, if you're trading assets for taxi squad guys, you're doing it wrong.
I'm just gonna assume that they're friends, and that Zach is doing Mike a solid here. So happy birthday to him, and
I do think it's an interesting conversation though on how to build the taxi squad. We did a show on it a while ago, but the reality is, especially for a team like the Avs that has so much young talent, it doesn't make a ton of sense to go out and actively chase players for their taxi squad. Apparently, Mike is in here as well. So, hi, Mike. Sorry, the Avs can't sign you or trade for you.
Yeah, you should have tried being better.
Anyway, how many taxi squad spots do you think are legitimately up for battle in this training camp?
6.
All 6?
5. The goaltender one shouldn't be.
Is it though? Like,
yeah. Beyond that, I mean,
So you don't have any for sure taxi squad locks yet?
No, because I don't know what they want to do with the extra roster spots. But yeah. I would have to think that Gilbert and Timmins and Byram, those 3 guys, are comprising at least 1 spot on the roster and at least 1 taxi squad spot.
Okay.
And then at forward, Kaut, maybe Bowers, maybe some of these AHL guys like Sherwood.
See a Salamaki sneak on there or something, yeah.
Yeah. because we're talking locks here. Like, these are the guys that absolutely should be involved. And O'Connor. I think that either on the roster or on the taxi squad at forward, I think the no doubt about it, it has to be O'Connor and Count.
Yeah, I agree. They should be call-ups 1 and 2, whether that's the 13th forward or the taxi squad guy, whatever. The forward conversation is a little bit easier there. We'll see if it shakes out that way. We do know the Avs love to give opportunity to vets that have good camps. So
yeah. So I mean that's where one of Vecchione, Sherwood, and Salamaki.
Yep.
One of those guys is playing for the Avs this year, if not all three. Like, it's just gonna happen. And the real question is do they lean towards those guys? What does that mean for the TJ Tynan, Sheldon Dries of the world, where it's like, okay, we saw you, we're good. Do those guys still get opportunities or not?
Yeah.
My answer would be not.
Yeah.
But I think they probably feel differently.
We'll see. Mitchell Estes Byram have any shot at working his way up to the top pair? 6 p.m. tonight, Mountain Time. We are releasing a rookie season preview video premiering on YouTube on this very channel if you're watching this on YouTube. So tune in to that if you want a more in-depth view of all of our rookies heading into this season. Highly recommend it. We're doing a whole preview series. We have a couple out already on the goaltenders and the depth defense. If you haven't checked them out yet, go give them a look, give them a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Helps us out a ton. We would appreciate it very, very much. We can go ahead and take our second period break here to let you guys know about my favorite Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. Dozens of flavors. If you want to go on down to the farmhouse, if you're local in Littleton, you can get every single flavor they have, including that Mile High City Copper Lager you saw up on screen there for a second. Plenty of other ones as well. The Mango Mosaic, the Agave Wheat, the Juice Drop that's relatively new. Tons of delicious beer. There you go. Avalanche Amber. Simple, but one of my personal favorites. You can't go wrong with a simple amber beer if you ask me. So jump on those opportunities. Supporting our partners is supporting us. So we love Breck Brew over here. We love all of our sponsors as well, though. So, yeah, also go on over and support WGT Golf, our gaming sponsor, loved by more than 20 million players around the world. You can play on your computer or mobilely on your phone. Super easy to pick up and put down anytime you get a chance. Head to dnvrgolf.com to download and then search for DNVR4 to join our 4th country club. It's over 800 members now. I'm not sure the exact number because I run DNVR 3. Someone else runs DNVR 4. But we're approaching 1,000 members on DNVR Golf, which I think would be a pretty cool milestone to hit.
We're starting to run out of people to run the clubhouses. Yeah,
like we have to find someone new to pull from DNVR to hey, go start up this clubhouse. You have to leave DNVR 1. Sorry. I don't have a beer this morning, Zach. I can't drink a nooner beer every single day. Some days you gotta cut back a little bit, Can't be a full drunkard all the time. Only some of the time.
This just sounds like, don't let your dreams be dreams, Rudo.
Yeah, I should just become an alcoholic. Okay.
I mean, you don't have to go that far, but my man, if you want to drink a beer at noon, you're welcome to. Also, the idea that at 1:30 in the afternoon, you're like, I can't drink one this morning.
I mean, here's the real ad for Breck Brew is that I drank all my Breck Brew over the weekend, so I don't have any Breck Brew left to drink on the show today. So, yeah, look, there's the link to our premiere coming at 6 p.m. Mountain Time tonight. We'll be there in the live chat as well, chatting y'all up if you have any questions or you just want to talk about it. So be there or be square, I guess. I feel like squares are popular in hockey, though, right? If you have a player that's built squarely, he just will skate around the ice and hit people. I don't know. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook with Rudo and AJ. AJ, You always seem to hit the nail on the head when you say deadlines spur action. As over the weekend, true. That's true. The
Yeah,
tailgate
those
show
guys.
had no shame.
Well, I guess Hank is like a decade younger than us.
Yeah, he can handle that.
Yeah, I don't. RK and Andre, especially Andre. I don't know how Andre does it while being a dad.
Dude, do you see how mad he gets anytime he has to do a shot on that show? He hates it. He knows he's gonna feel it later. So, dude, yeah, a DNVR mukbang, I'm down. In any case, as you always say, deadlines spur action, AJ, and we've seen quite a bit of movement in the league over the weekend, essentially, as teams get ramped up for their training camps. The two major moves, we already talked about John Marino getting signed forever by Pittsburgh, but Dylan Strome also signing a 2-year deal, and a whole bunch of stuff swirling around Pierre-Luc Dubois, where there was talk about him potentially wanting a trade, and then he signs a 2-year deal for $5 million per with Columbus, but then maybe he still wants a trade out. Just a weird situation over there in Columbus.
I'm not sure what Columbus can do differently there. Like, I understood when Bobrovsky and Panarin didn't want to stay. They were fine with that, right?
Yep. They knew that was coming.
Yeah. And like, you understood, like, these are guys that have specific places that they want to live. Bobrovsky lives in Miami in the offseason. They offered him a comical amount of money. That was an easy, predictable finish. And then Panarin going to the Rangers, he wanted to be in New York that entire time, which is why both New York teams were among his finalists.
Yep.
With PLD, like, drafted and developed there, has had success there, has been given lots of opportunity, is loved by that organization. I don't know what they can do differently. You know, I'm starting to wonder if Columbus is like the Nuggets of the NHL, where it just doesn't seem to matter.
People just can't stick.
Yeah, they just cannot. They cannot get talent to stay there. You know, obviously the Nuggets right now, Jokic and Murray have signed long-term contracts, so that's a nice, like,
new age Nuggets. It's a little bit easier.
But even then, it's the rookie scale extension, so it's really not like they were going to be RFAs anyway, so it kind of makes no sense for them to sign with another team for their first max. So
it doesn't make any financial sense whatsoever.
So we'll really see what's going to happen after these contracts are up, and whether that mode of operandi for Denver has changed at all.
Right. And in the meantime, even then, it's been like Jeremy Grant was like, I'd rather go and try and be a 20-10 guy on Detroit. You know, like, the point of this is that Denver is not an attractive place for NBA players, but by and large.
Just another check mark on Columbus being Denver East is what we're saying.
Yeah, no kidding. So Columbus having this problem with the top center, I mean, it's tough. It's a really tough situation because you're almost guaranteed to lose any deal that you make for that guy. Because ideally, if you're Jarmo Kekalainen right now, what do you? People are calling you and saying, okay, PLD wants out. What's up? You're saying,
you better offer me the moon, or I'm hanging up this phone, or what?
You're saying I want a young, quality NHL player, I want a top prospect, and I want multiple picks. At least one of which is a first rounder.
Yeah.
Like, that's your starting point for a 23-year-old number one center that, you know, I think is going to develop into a pretty good two-way player. Right now it's still a work in progress, but he drives a ton of offense.
You outside want of Scott for Matt Duchene for that guy. That's what you want.
Yeah, I mean, everybody would love that.
Obviously,
right?
That's the super ridiculous high end, but
yeah, but that's like, but even if you just sort of combine the elements, like just what Ottawa gave up alone,
Yep.
They gave up a first, they gave up a third, they gave up a top prospect in Bowers, which is like a third, which is like another first round pick because it had just happened. And then Hammond, I guess it's like your third goaltender. It's your insurance policy. So the only thing the Avs didn't really get out of that was an NHL, like a real NHL player.
Yeah.
They got a third goaltender, which they got an insurance policy, which they had to use.
It's a hard comparison too, because the reason they didn't get an NHL player out of that deal is because they knew they were getting Sam Girard from Nashville. So
right. And then if you look at the Nashville side of it, maybe the Nashville side of it is better because you get a young NHL player in Sam Girard, you get a top prospect in Kamenev, and then you got a second round pick. If you just change it to a first, you're home.
Yep.
That's exactly what you're after. That's what you want from PLD. And then, of course, our job, any time it ever happens that somebody wants out, we have to answer, should the Avs do this?
Yeah. Well, are the Avs
even when the Avs are jacked in the NHL and with prospects, it's like, should they?
Cody McLeod could announce he's coming out of retirement tomorrow, and we'd have to be on the pod being like, should the Avs reacquire Cody McLeod?
See, I think there would only be like where's our Ryan Reeves guy?
Yeah,
in the
True.
chat that always is like, we need Ryan Reeves. That guy would be all about it, but I don't think it would otherwise be popular.
The answer for most people, I think, would unequivocally be no.
Yeah.
But in PLD's case, very different story, right? This is a guy who can play 1C. They don't come along very often. Now, the Avs in particular are in an interesting spot for that. Obviously, you have McKinnon as your 1C forever and ever, and PLD is not going to change that.
Mm-hmm.
But is it worth chasing a PLD to play 2C when you have Nazem Kadri right now and an Alex Newhook coming?
Yeah, I think you would have to move Kadri.
Yeah.
You'd probably have to move both Kadri and Newhook.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bad feel.
It starts to get real steep real quick, especially when you consider PLD's contract is only 2 years at $5 million, and then he's going to get paid even more. So,
yeah,
you're giving up, and look, there's some upside to that too. At the end of the day, you still have no idea what Alex Newhook is in the NHL, and if that guy flops, moving him for PLD would feel real good. But if Alex Newhook goes on to be a 70-point NHLer, not going to feel so good.
Yeah. The thing with PLD is that there's no questions, right?
Yep.
Like I guess he's just 22. He'll turn 23 this summer. He's legit, man. And that way you're not having any questions of like, well, now we wait 2 years to see, okay, Newhook gets to the NHL, but it's not like Newhook is his best version right away. It might be 5 years until that happens. Who knows where things go with the Avs between now and then, right?
For sure.
Maybe disaster strikes and Nathan McKinnon leaves in free agency, Landeskog leaves in free agency, all these guys bounce. Alex Newhook is on the top line in 5 years. Like, we have no idea what 5 years from now looks like. Great example being, go back 5 years, try and tell me how much of this would have made sense 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So, you look at it and it's like that's the appeal, is that you don't have any questions about Dubois as a legit, really, really damn good NHL player.
So here's a question. What, outside of youth, because that one's obvious, what does Dubois bring you to a second line that Kadri does not?
I don't know that there's much of anything. Kadri, at least underlying numbers-wise, would tell us Kadri's still the better defender. Of course, they're going in opposite directions.
Yeah.
So that might be true today, but over the next 3 years, you don't expect it will continue to be true.
Yep. And that's kind of where I'm at, though, is if Kadri brings you the same thing in the immediate for cheaper, and then you have Newhook coming to replace him, it starts to make for cheaper on ELC level cheaper.
Right.
It starts to make less and less sense for the Avs to go out and get Dubois.
Yeah, because then you start to say, okay, you've got 2 years of Kadri at his current number, sub $5 million. He's probably the 2C for both of those years.
Yep.
Newhook is probably on the first year of his ELC next fall, and he will fit somewhere in the lineup. He will have to work his way into the lineup somewhere.
Yeah.
And then Kadri, his contract expires, whatever. It will still be cheaper than PLD.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 years of Newhook left on that ELC. So theoretically, if he ascends to take the 2C job, theoretically you have the next 4 years of your second line center covered for under $5 million.
Yep. Financially, it makes all the sense in the world to just stick with Kadri and Newhook. Certainly. And I just don't think the skill level difference / the risk the Avs are taking on by hoping Newhook is a quality NHLer is that high that it's worth giving that up.
Yep. I agree. I mean, I just don't think that there's a reason you and I haven't jumped into this conversation. It's not, it's not something that we really are too concerned about. We don't have a whole lot of, it's fine.
Yeah. That's just kind of the reality of the foreseeable future with the Avs at the center position. McKinnon's not going anywhere. Newhook isn't going anywhere. They have Comfer signed for 3 more years, and they have Shane Bowers chomping at the bit to get into NHL action who can play center. They just have center depth in a lot of different ways. So anytime a center comes on the market, it's going to be hard for the Avs to find a way to fit him in.
Yeah, it's not really, where Colorado is right now is where a lot of teams would love to be.
Yep.
1C, you don't have to worry about it, and you've got 2C options for the next 4 years.
Yep. You're chilling down the middle for the most part. It's the Avs, and don't get me wrong, the Avs are deep at wing as well at this point now, but they have particularly deep center depth at the NHL level. So it should be a fun upcoming couple of years in that regard as we break down all of their rosters in depth. I'm excited for it, to say the least. AJ, as we're wrapping up today's show, we can move into some final thoughts here. We probably won't get to see any of camp, really, but are there any expectations for you? Anything you expect to stand out from what we do get to see?
Yeah, man. I mean, there's got to be some separation from some of these guys trying to win jobs. Yep. It has to happen.
We have some breaking news in the chat.
Oh yeah, they announced the start times of games. Opening night we already knew, but the only one that I thought I've looked through it already. The only one I found interesting is the alleged outdoor game is at 1 p.m.
Neat.
Mountain.
Go schedule the next 6 months of my life now.
Yeah, and the other big thing is that we have a ton of 8 p.m. starts,
which is the least shocking thing I've ever heard, putting us in a division with 3 California teams.
Yep. And then when they're in San Jose specifically, it's a bunch of 8:30 starts.
Sounds about right.
So that sucks.
Get ready to live the late night life, Avs fans.
Yeah. Keep in mind that after every game, we'll be doing a pod.
Yep. I feel bad for our East Coast people.
Let's see here. 8:30 start.
11 o'clock we'll be going live most nights. Yeah.
Yep. If it goes into overtime, shootout, Who knows? Lots of penalties. Somebody breaks the glass. Any of those things happen.
Yeah.
Any of those things happen, and it's easily 12:15 start time for us.
Yep. So hopefully y'all will join us late night along for the ride. Of course, if you can't stay up, you can always catch it the following day on YouTube, as I've already mentioned. I guess that's about it. We're going to get out of here for the day. Again, 6 p.m., premiering our talk about the rookies. If you want to hear us talk about that, please show up, hang out in the chat. Something kind of a big project we're working on. People like Kale and Allie and our production team put a ton of work into those. So highly recommend you check those out, even the 2 that we already have up. And we're doing one just about every single day, I think, leading up to the start of the season. We're posting one of those videos at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. So highly recommend you check it out. We are going to get out of here with our Colorado Raptors beat, as Colorado is now the place to be for everything rugby, with the Infinity Park, at Glendale is now the home to both the men's and women's USA Eagles 15 teams. That means the best rugby in the United States is happening right here in Colorado. Of course, Colton has you covered with all sorts of rugby podcasts, doing interviews. If you're new to the game, he has 101 pods to break down everything for you. So go follow the podcast, follow DNVR Rugby on Twitter. Help us out. Give that a follow. Support our other communities. We're just one big happy family here over at DNVR. Hope all of y'all have an amazing rest of your Monday, and I will see you guys with Evan tomorrow, as AJ is flying back to Colorado. But Evan and I talk to you guys tomorrow.